Well, we're looking at 2019, aren't we? It's been a great year for the stable. The only downside for me was mid-April when I went flying through the air and broke my wrist. What else did I do? Broke my elbow, separated my shoulder, broke 2 ribs, had a partially collapsed lung. But I healed up. You guys know how frustrating that was for me, because the day I got the pins out of my wrist, the next day I was qualifying horses. And for the first month, it was the first time I'd ever been hurt in my life. First time I'd ever been really, really hurt, where my body wasn't working the way it was before. And when my pins came out, the motion on my hand was literally just like that. So I didn't know how I would be able to control a horse, how much strength I had, because you don't know you're out of strength until you're out of strength. And I remember my brother Mark saying to me, he said, the biggest fear I've ever had on a horse, and Mark's been hurt a lot of times, bad. He said the most fear I ever had was getting locked in after coming back from a wrist injury, and I was holding onto the horse and my hand started to open. And there was nothing I could do about it. He said I reached over with my other hand and held onto the horse until I got the horse out. He said, and then that was it for a little while. He was, it's hard. So I had driven, many of you know this, especially the people that watch closely, I drove with my hand through the handhold for the better part of a month. I won the stake race with Really Blue Chip with my hand through the handhold, and I won my first start back off the DL with Havana Una Na in fine fashion, her first lifetime start, and she was awesome that night. That was a great night in Peterborough, and it was a great night for the stable. We had a big night. Emerald Miss was a winner that night too, I believe, if I'm not mistaken. I don't know if I'm getting the days mixed up, but it was a great feeling to know that even though I was broken, I could still function at some sort of a level. So that was the only downside for me. It was we wanted to accomplish a lot of things this year. Obviously, we didn't get back to the Hambletonian. White Tiger was a bit of a letdown, and Oso Pine was also through the middle of the summer. But look at them now. They're springing back up and coming forward. You can't keep a good horse down, so to speak, or a good guy down, good man down, or a woman. But you can't. A good hard worker will always work hard if they're able. And that was true for me, and it's true for Amy and the kids, and hopefully many of our grooms. It's tough for me because when I do these videos, I always talk about myself, or I talk about Amy, or I talk about the horses. But at the end of the day, the grooms don't really get enough recognition. They're the ones that make sure these horses are good day to day, right? They're the first line of defense for the stable. Yes, honey, 1 second.
So what does it mean, like, when your wrist opens and Uncle Mark was holding you?
So he didn't have any more strength. He physically, his hand failed him, so to speak. Anyway, that's neither here nor there, honey. It's all right. So, the grooms are the ones, sure, I can bring you all the information about the horses we want, but they're living, breathing animals. Somebody has to take care of them day to day, clean their stall, make sure that their feet are cold, make sure that there's no swelling where there shouldn't be swelling, things of that nature. And this is a tough business, right? The janitor keeps your school clean. Nobody talks about the janitor. And these people work very, very hard, and I'm very appreciative of everything they do. Sometimes I'm guilty also of not showing it. But I was a groom once myself, and I know the pride that these grooms take in the care and the success of these horses. So 2019, obviously, although we had a good year, a big part of that was because of the people that care for these horses. So that goes without saying. One thing I wanted to change in 2019 was what happened last winter. We talked about that. What kind of a devastating screw up last November, really. November, December, January, February. It felt like we never won a race. And looking back, I don't think I deserved to win a race. We expected a lot more from horses than we shouldn't have, and I got exactly what I deserved. And everybody associated with the stable.ca paid the price of that. And the fact that we really didn't have much to look forward to before spring, right? Then spring came along. Oso Pine was terrible, which was another heartbreak. West 52nd looked decent. And we did have a horse push forward out of the flames, a phoenix, if you will, in Yes. Yes picked up our Ohio 3-year-olds and carried them on his shoulders virtually all year. West 52nd was good. It was a good supporting part of the supporting cast of Ohio, but Yes really carried everybody right up until they started racing in the stake races. And then what we saw was what? We saw very close to an Ohio champion. I think a nose away from being an Ohio champion in Globetrotting, a filly that has as much talent as any horse I've ever had. She's right there in that barn, right there. She just came back yesterday. And I was so proud of how Globetrotting raced. And for those of you, I put some lists together. We'll talk about them in a minute. But we all knew that Globetrotting had talent. She looked like a good horse. She moved like a good horse. But some bad horses do the same thing. And it comes down to work ethic, and it comes down to attitude. I keep saying that. It always comes down to work ethic and attitude. And you can have the most ability, the most ability in the world, and completely squander it. And we've seen that happen many, many times before. Then we see horses like Yes that just looked like an overachiever from day one. In January, everybody said he's not trotting right, he's lame, or something's wrong with him. You know, we put hobbles on him. We didn't put hobbles on him. We got him to the races. His first start, he was last in a maiden. That Oh So Pine was a winner in. It looked like there was a wide berth between Oh So Pine and Yes. And that rang true all through his 2-year-old year. West 52nd always seemed to draw the toughest class. Always seemed to draw the outside. Yes, always seemed to draw good, get a good trip, find the right class. It looked like there were two polar opposites. And Yes, we always said, yeah, he's a nice horse, but, right? Oh So Pine just dominated. He was by far the best 2-year-old in Ohio for us in 2018 and 19. And with the emergence of Yes as a 3-year-old, it really helped the stable.ca. So Yes was a glowing point. I think he made well over $100,000 from September to December. And I'm not going to talk about a lot of money in this video for the simple reason there's going to be pundits out there that can rip apart the stable and say, we don't make enough money. Okay, we don't make enough money. And I've said this a million times before. You know, one, if our 2-year-olds per horse per start average isn't high enough, we still have those horses into their 3-year-old year and beyond. And for the horses that do make money, that's great. But what we provide here at the stable.ca isn't all that, is it? It was the greatest thing. We had a journalist, a couple of journalists, but a journalist that was a member of the stable.ca, Oliver, stop now. That was a journalist, and he was involved with the stable the first year, or one of the first years. And he reported on it, very nice man.
Daddy,
And he reported on it the whole, all throughout the year, in a column he wrote. And then at the end of the year, he left the stable.ca, and he didn't seem very happy about it. You know, he didn't buy into the entertainment angle of the stable. The horse didn't make enough money. He didn't like the way that we managed the horse, and that was that. That happens. I kept in touch with that same journalist, and then this year he came up to me at the Breeders' Crown at Mohawk. I was sitting at the table with Tom Grossman, and he come up and he said, you know, I never bought into the whole entertainment angle. I never bought into how anybody could, you know, look at horse racing as entertainment and not look at the bottom line. He said, I know, I heard you talk about how people put a price of entertainment as far as what they can afford or what they're willing to spend on entertainment every year, and whether it's horse racing or Disney World or going to the gym or a baseball or a football game. He said, but I just never bought into that. He said, I just ran into 2 of your clients down in the tent. I don't want to say who they were, but very, very nice people. They come all the way from Nashville, I believe. Come all the way from Nashville. He said, and I talked to them and I asked them how much money they've made at the stable over the 3 years they said they've been involved. The lady looked at the gentleman looked at the lady. He said, I don't know. I don't know if or how much we made. And I couldn't believe what I just heard. They had never taken financial stock of how much they put into the stable. Because the important thing about the stable for this industry and outside this industry is the ability to budget however you want. We have a fairly aggressive secondary market, so if you really want out, you've had enough and you want out, that's our loss. I feel bad, and that does happen from time to time. But I believe we treat everybody with the respect we would expect to be treated with. We treat everybody with professionalism and compassion, and they'll likely come back. Right? Because everybody can't make money. Eventually, the vast majority of you that own horses, you're not going to turn a profit. It's just so hard to do in this industry. What we offer is something, I think, a little bigger than just take my horse to the track, race my horse, how much money did I just make? Or how much money have I lost? It's a lot more than that. What we've built, and this was not my intention when we started it, what we've built is a community where everybody is proud of what they're a part of, where everybody watches everybody's horses. I always have the same analytical clients, and I've got a number of the year-end breakdowns from them. They always talk about how much they watch everybody else's horses and how their horses did. And, you know, for us, Kelly sent me a number of stats, right? How much horses, what the horses made per start at 2. You know, how many of our horses took marks, how many of our horses raced in stake races. The only stat that matters to me is the number one. The biggest one is 62 of 69 of our 2-year-olds raced. Of the 69 we broke and trained down from January 1st, 2019 to right now, December 31st, 2019, 62 of the 69 have raced. Actually, 2 are going to be into qualify and were scratched out of qualifiers because they canceled them the other day. So it would have been 64 out of 69. But fair being fair, it was 62 out of 69 officially. We won like 40 stake races. Of the 62 horses, I think she said 55 of them took lifetime marks. That seems high. Maybe I'm wrong. Well, somewhere around there. Those are the high points for me. For me, yes, emerging as a real powerhouse of the stable.ca was important. Cruising in style. The fact that he transitioned from a 3-year-old into a 4-year-old. We stuck to the plan. We implemented a plan, and it came to fruition. He's closing in on $100,000 made this year as a 4-year-old. We didn't start him till later on, closer to summertime, because we wanted to miss all the big tigers, the big killers at 4. We wanted to allow him to grow into himself, find himself, and be the best horse he can be. I think 2 starts ago when he trotted in 52 and a piece in December was certainly a fact that is exactly what he's doing. He's still long. He's still frail looking. He's going to be a much better 5-year-old. I've never in my life when I was young thought of how my 2-year-olds would look at 5. Never thought I'd have them at 5. But what we built at the stable.ca is what we're trying to build, I guess, is a dynasty. I guess it's certainly not the Burke Brigade or what Jimmy Tactor or Nancy or any of the big trainers have built. But we're building a strong stable, and we're doing it in a responsible, reasonable way. And I know a lot of people don't understand how the stable operates or what it does because we don't conform to the same rules as the industry norm, right? The industry norm was find somebody, try to figure out how you can make money in horse racing for them, implement a strategy, and turn a profit. That's so hard to do. So hard to do. What we have here and what we've built here is something bigger, something better, something that people can actually sink their teeth into, be proud of, but most importantly, budget and get involved at their own comfort level. So, year in and year out, this is what we talk about, what we did, how we did it. I want to talk about the horses that I'm proud of. Yes, obviously I was very proud of. A huge letdown for us in 2019 was White Tiger. White Tiger was paid into the Hambletonian. We expected him to be the flagship 3-year-old as he was as a 2-year-old for the stable.ca, and he faltered. He didn't race good. He bounced from Andrew's barn to Tim's barn, now back to Harry's barn where he started his 3-year-old campaign. And he really struggled throughout the summer. And I think a lot of that had to do with the allergies that he had. But now there's no allergies. And White Tiger won his last start in 154 and 4, 2/5 off his career best he took at the Meadowlands at the start of the summer. I think he's really starting to turn into the horse we wanted him to be. Just a little late for the party, isn't he? But there's lots of races and certainly lots of money to race for from now to whenever White Tiger is done with the stable. So White Tiger certainly on his way forward. Another horse actually who's probably shown as much or more than White Tiger since he's made his way back to Ontario is Oso Pine. Now, we could have left Oso Pine with Jason, but as I said to Jason the day we qualified him, he qualified great. 57, and he looked good. Angie and Rob did a great job with this horse in Illinois, brought him back to life. We brought him back here, and as I said to Jason, listen, I want to keep this horse on his toes. So we sent him to Carmen Osiello. Carmen has done a great job. Oliver has done a great job with this horse right here in Ontario. Cruising in Style, Andrew's done a great job with him. He's really come to life as a 4-year-old and done very, very well. Won races in Delaware, won races in Pennsylvania, in New Jersey. I think Cruising in Style is well on his way to being a very, very good 5-year-old trotter for the stable.ca. A new addition to our stable was Cavill Hanover. Threw a little bit of a clunker in the other day, still finished 5th, but trotted in 154 flat the week before. We did a little vet work to him this week. He's going to be in to go next Monday. This is a horse, again, much like Yes and White Tiger and Oso Pine. This is a 3-year-old who's had a fairly decorated career. He was a winner of the Simpson right before we bought him. He's taken a mark of 154 and a bit. And made over $200,000. So Cavill Hanover was a great addition to this stable late in the fall. West 52nd has found a new leg since he come back to Ontario. Now I know you're going to say, well, he was 6th his last 2 starts. Yes, but he was way up in the non-winners of 5, and he drew the 9 hole. James protected him, drove him accordingly, and he responded well with last quarters in 27 and 4 both nights, expecting a big race out of him next time he draws inside. A horse that we bought for the Gold Cup and Saucer, it looked like we were well on our way to not having much luck with him, was Brave World. We brought him back here, gave him back to Richard Moreau. He was a winner in the Preferred. We won our first pacing Preferred in Ontario ever with Brave World. Got a little tired at the end of the fall. We've given him a month or a bit off, and he'll be coming back for the early winter and spring racing here in Ontario. Been a real breath of fresh air for our stable, was Brave World. A horse that kind of snuck up, won her last start. 2 horses kind of fall into the same slot. Stonebridge Simba had an okay year, bounced around, made some okay money, and turned into a pretty decent trotter, but I think he's got a lot of racing ahead of him. In fact, I think his best racing is ahead of him. Another horse who I believe her best races are quite a ways ahead of her is Arvika. Finally won a race at Woodbine in convincing fashion. I know the race caller said, oh, she outstaggered them. It was a little unfair. It was a horrible night, and the class above her and 2 classes above her barely went 3/4 of a second faster than her. And I think Arvika's finally learning to be a good racehorse, and I couldn't help but mention a horse that has had a horrible 2019. And I, because I've held on to him so long, am really hoping to see him come back as a better horse at 5, and that's Road Tripper. He has been horrible so far, and he was bad his last 2 starts. He was really fighting some issues, some soundness issues, some problems with his feet. We had him swimming all summer. I think it's time to get back to work now. I think Road Tripper's going to race 1 more start out of the pool, and then he'll be coming back to Kevin's Burn for the remainder of the winter time. Those are the aged horses that have really caught my eye. Obviously, the biggest headline for me for the year was 62. As I said, just missed 64. 62 out of 69 of our 2-year-olds raced. Where do we fall short this year? I think we got to make some changes when it comes to our staking procedures. I know a lot of people have emailed me over the last 2 weeks on both sides of this coin saying, the reason we're with the stable is that dream that we might win the Breeders' Crown or the Hambletonian. That's great. There's no problem with that. It's just I think we have to have a lot of buffers between the staking, what it could be, and what it actually is. And one of those is me. I have to have the input of, does this horse look like this could be a top flight horse? Let me be very clear. Very little Grand Circuit money has ever flowed through the stable.ca. This has to be a reality that we look at. Is it worth staking our horses to the Hambletonian? Sure, we raced in the Hambletonian once, and who knows what would have happened had Lawmaker not made that break in the elimination. But at the same time, it cost a lot of money to get there. And whether it be the Hambletonian, the Breeders' Crown, or a whole plethora of stakes on our staking schedule, we really just have to make sure we're doing what's right for everyone, horses included. So yes, I want to continue to clamp down on that. Does that mean we don't stake to anything except jurisdictional staking? No, of course not. But it does mean that we have to take a real strong look at how we stake and our staking practices. That goes without saying. Well, one other hurdle that we always will have to overcome, and we're working our hardest to get it done, is licensing. I talked about that in depth, at length, in the last video, but at the same time, something we have to try to get in and get around. I think a lot of the jurisdictions, when they see that line item of revenue from licensing, they use that and they look at it and say, we need that. But you don't, because that number, especially here in Ontario, is propped up by the stable.ca. I'm not going to shell out $30,000 every single year to license our horses and our people. I'm not going to continue to be bottled up in an industry or a jurisdiction that isn't going to be reciprocating the hard work that we put in to racing horses. So when you look at places like Ohio or Pennsylvania, although it's easier to maneuver in those jurisdictions, I think we have to sit down with them also and say, okay, I understand why you have this 5% rule, but I do believe you need to catalog every single human being in our industry in an affordable way. Now, when you look at Ontario, it's not the most affordable. I think a lot of our American clients tolerate it because they have a 30% head start on their Canadian counterparts. New York is brutal when it comes to their licensing. I don't know how we're going to fix that. We have asked and implored that the breeders in New York push for us and help us, and I think they're going to take a little bit of time. And when it comes to the other jurisdictions, it's just a matter of working through it, right? This industry, for the most part, many parts of this industry has not joined the 21st century. They're 19 years late to the party, and I think we need to work together as an industry to grow, but grow in an affordable, proper way. And I don't think anybody's going to argue that. Just what is that? What does that look like? And we'd like to be at the table to help with that, and hopefully we will be invited to. But that's something we're constantly working at. Kelly and Scott have been just beating their heads against the wall, trying to figure out how to get this done. We've sent off proposals to all the jurisdictions, the Hambletonian Society, and everybody else, saying, listen, you're costing yourself money and you're making it hard for people to do business, whether they know it or not, in this industry. And I think they're going to have to conform. It's just going to take a little bit of time. So I told you I had some lists. We talked about our aged horses. How do our 3-year-olds, 2-year-olds coming 3 look? Now, please, I'm doing my best to project and guess who's going to be the best horse. If you'd have told me that Yes was going to be our best 3-year-old, I'd say you're close, but not quite. We had White Tiger, Oso Pine. These were horses that I thought would come out as powerhouses at 3 and didn't. And Yes turned into a top flight 3-year-old trotter. Beat his old training partner, Swandre the Giant, not once but twice on his home turf of Indiana, and has really just turned into a nice horse. Just a step behind the best of the best, but as an aged horse, who knows? He might find that step pretty quick. So, how do our 2-year-olds look coming back at 3?
That word is Yes.
Yes, honey, is at Irv Miller's farm right now in Pennsylvania, I assume. Where he's going to race him, I don't know. That's a great question. I assume he'll be in to go at Yonkers this coming week. So,
Coming back.
he won't come back for a while. He'll stay down there for a little bit. 2-year-olds coming 3. Obviously, there has to be a top of the heap, and anybody that thinks it isn't Globetrotting is simply incorrect. Globetrotting was an incredibly talented fast filly, and that was fully on display. Her last start, which was the Breeders' Crown elimination. Yes, she didn't make the final. Yes, she got nosed out for 5th, but she looked every bit as good as any horse on earth that given day, and I am really impressed with Globetrotting and cannot wait. I saw her today for the first time. She filled out. She's big. She's tall. She looks great. This is a filly I cannot wait to see race at 3. Horse that I drove into the 2 spot. It was tight for me, but I think she belongs there. Spirit of Dale. Spirit of Dale started her year with an incredible last quarter of 26-4 and a first over win at the Meadowlands. Horses just don't do that. And not 2-year-old trotting fillies. And she was so impressive. She struggled a bit making breaks when she come back here, and then really put it together for the end of the year, finishing second to Luke Blaze filly, and then winning her last start of the year in 156-3. She looks fantastic. She's off to Florida now. She's in the care of John Boutenchain. John will probably condition and race her in the Meadowlands and the New Jersey Sires for us. And as we map out a plan for this filly, you can be sure John will be a big part of it. Canadian Titan. That might be a surprise for some of you, as Canadian Titan was only a... Have to get going. We ordered pizza. As Canadian Titan was only a grassroots filly, but this is a filly that only missed the top 2 once. And once or twice. I think she was third once, and another time she made a break. A very uncharacteristic break. This is a filly that's come back and looks like a beast now. Just a really, really talented filly. And Canadian Titan is a horse I think will have a breakout year in 2020. A filly that I think will be a very, very good horse for the stable.ca. She had a great year in 2019. She's got a lot of growing to do. She's already got that racehorse mentality. I think Canadian Titan is going to be a horse to watch for us. And when you see the horses that come in behind Canadian Titan, you're going to grasp pretty quick what I truly think of this filly's potential. Coming in at number 4, Compass Rose DC. This is a filly that had an unbelievable start to the year. She was actually the leader in Ohio heading into the 3rd leg of the Sire Stakes. She was 2 for 2 in her first 2 legs, finished second in her 3rd leg, and then had some problems, made a couple of breaks. We got her right, qualified her in 58, changed her shoes and qualified her in 58 on a horribly muddy day at Northfield, and then took her to Delaware, and the track just didn't suit the shoes she had on. We had qualified her with flip-flops on. We got to Delaware, the track was deep. I guess that's my fault. I didn't know the track in Delaware was that deep. I thought it was kind of a... I don't know what I thought. I thought it was a better surface. I mean, the surface was great. Obviously fantastic. A little too deep for the shoes of Globetrotting. And she ended up a little flat and finished 4th in her race in Delaware, but had a tremendous year. Took a mark of 58, I think. Well, I know she definitely qualified in 58 in the mud. Northfield took a mark of 58 in the mud and has grown up significantly and has really turned into a good-looking filly. We should have another powerhouse year out of our 3-year-olds, and when we start to look at our 2-year-olds in a minute, Ohio again looks very promising for the stable.ca in 2020. Coming in at number 5, Knockdown Dragout. This is a filly that really sputtered at 2. She had a ton of talent, trotted in 55, but just mentally could not put it all together. And I've talked to Aki Svansted's wife. Aki doesn't speak very good English, so I talked to Sarah Svansted quite a bit. Not quite a bit. I talked to her on Facebook. She told me they love the filly. She's doing great. She's going to begin her training on January 6th. I think Aki's got a pretty good handle on what this filly needs and what she needs to do, and I'm excited to see what he'll do with her in 2020. Filly that has also put on a lot of bulk and a lot of size, Just For Me and You. Just For Me and You looks fantastic. I saw her on the track all week. Really excited to see what this filly looks like. Again, a lot of the horses on this list are horses that you might be surprised with, but horses that I see what they look like now, and that's what I really wanted them to look like when they come back in. Not all the horses that come back in grew up as tall and as big and as strong as you'd want them to. They weren't big horses. One example that we're going to look at later on in this list is Capistrano. She's still a small filly, but she's a beautiful filly. And what made Capistrano wasn't her size, wasn't her body. It was her work ethic and her attitude and her will to win. That is what made Capistrano Capistrano. But at the same time, if you see a filly that had a great year like Compass Rose DC, and she comes back in and she's 3 inches taller, 150 pounds have been put on her,
Daddy,
it's hard to overlook that horse. What's up, babe?
so what's the horse that when her ears go up when she beats other horses?
Compass Rose likes beating other horses, but Globetrotting loves crushing them. She loves to really beat up on them. What horse did you guys like the most this year, Ollie? Which one? Don't say one that you picked, but maybe one that we went to watch race that did good this year, that you had a lot of fun and you liked watching the horse. Which one's your favorite for 2019, Ollie?
White Tiger.
White Tiger.
White Tiger.
Wow. That's unanimous. I think they might be brainwashed by Mummy. Amy loves White Tiger, obviously, has always loved White Tiger.
I even have a White Tiger.
And you have you have 2 White Tigers. You have a real White Tiger and you have a teddy bear White Tiger. So White Tiger. And where was your favorite place to go in 2019? What was your favorite place to go, Ollie?
Ohio.
Ohio? And where did you like to go in Ohio? Northfield, which is Cleveland, or Scioto, which is Columbus?
Scioto.
Scioto? Which was your favorite place to eat in Columbus? Do you remember?
Scioto.
Yeah, but what place did you like to eat in Scioto? You can't think of a restaurant?
Applebee's.
Applebee's? Oh, that's disgusting. And what was your favorite hotel to stay at?
Residence Inn.
The Residence. You remembered the name of that place?
Yeah, Residence Inn.
They love the Residence Inn because there's a big pool there, and it's. If you've stayed at the Residence Inn, you know what I'm talking about. It's a nice hotel, but it almost feels like an apartment building when you stay there.
Ollie,
Everybody's out by the pool, and anyway, it is a nice hotel.
Ollie, what's your not favorite hotel?
It doesn't matter.
The one with the bug in the seat.
No, Motel 8 or Motel 8 or whatever. Super 8.
It was the DoubleTree that had the bug.
I know, but the Super 8 you didn't like, right?
No, I hated the Super 8. Why?
So Ava, what was your favorite track to go to?
London.
No, in London?
Yeah.
Why do you like? When did you even go to London?
I don't know.
Oh my God.
I like Ohio.
You like
but
Ohio?
I don't like the drive.
Yeah, Ava doesn't like the drive to
I
Ohio.
love the drive.
Yeah, I don't mind the drive either. So we had a lot of fun though this summer, didn't we?
Yeah.
We're gonna have a lot more fun
Actually,
next summer.
no, Great Wolf Lodge.
Great Wolf Lodge. Where was that at? That was in Cincinnati. That mean the one that we stayed in the first of the year?
Yeah.
Yeah, that was nice.
Daddy, what was that big hotel that we stayed in? That big one that had all the connect up to the track? Oh. The
Big one
that
with
had
all
that had the giant ball in the bottom and then all the
I don't-
fancy rooms.
I don't know where that one was, honey.
And what was it? The one where I got my earrings and I lost them.
Oh, the Poconos.
Yeah.
Yeah, the Poconos. That's Pennsylvania. That was a fun place to go to.
But I lost my earrings. I like the Meadowlands.
So you can see the kids love traveling. They love coming on the road with me, and I love having them. Ava doesn't like the truck that much. She's not a great shipper, but at the same time, it's always great getting away. That's the one thing, is that the hardest part of my job is the one thing I love the most, and that's going on the road, racing the horses,
Having fun with us.
having fun with the kids and with Mom, and soon with Addie. And that's the thing that I love most.
I've
So,
already been to Ohio.
you know, everybody here knows the old adage, you know, if you love your job, you'll never work a day of your life. Well, it's been a long time since I worked. And, you know, being a part of the stable with my kids, my family, and you is what I love the most. So, we left off with Just For Me and You. Felix will be happy to see his filly drive into number 6. Number 7 on the list, Brush Cut. He's about to start, and he popped into my head because I saw this horse on the track yesterday. Man, oh man, he looks good. We wanted to train a bunch of horses fast today, but Mother Nature had other plans for us. Dumped about 4 inches of snow, wet snow on everything, and the track was muddy to begin with. There's just nothing you can do. Even at Mohawk, there's probably something they could have done at Mohawk, but it being New Year's Eve, I don't think there was a whole lot of anything being done at Mohawk today. And Kevin took a drive over to the track and said, we can't train these horses on this track, so we couldn't train today. But Brush Cut is a horse. Be aware. Brush Cut, I believe, is going to be a good horse for us at 3. I'll give you a little spoiler. His baby sister made it onto the top 20. It made 20 for 2-year-olds.
Baby sister?
Yeah, we have Brush Cut's baby sister here too.
What is it?
I'll let you know when we get to the list. Number 9, Trafalgar. Trafalgar had a great fall. Trafalgar only missed the top 3 once. Raced.
Trafalgar has the word fall in it.
Yeah, that's right. Trafalgar had a great start to her year, and then had that injury with her leg, and with her femur, and we had to give her, I guess, a tibia in a horse. We had to give her a long time off, brought her back. She almost won the series in London. We were shut out at the series. We were second in the final to a 3-year-old, and Sunshine and Shade was second in the final to a 3-year-old for the stake race there. We had our 2-year-olds against 3-year-olds. So Trafalgar had a great year again, put together a decent amount of money, but showed that she could be a real contender at 3, and I hope she will. A horse that I think has grown up and matured more than any other horse. 2 coming 3 physically. Spend that money, and I know a lot of people out there are excited to hear that. She looked like a killer her first 3 or 4 starts, and then kind of fizzled out, really struggled with the allergies in the middle of the summer, and then really didn't come back at the in the fall. Struggled the latter part of her 2-year-old season, but she looks some kind of good right now, and I can't wait to see what Spend That Money comes back and has to offer in 2020 as a 3-year-old. Another 3-year-old that ended off his year with a bang, so to speak, although it wasn't a win. It was a big mile, and that was Arctic Force. I think his last start was a mile of 53 and a piece over Vernon, but looked good doing it. I talked to John McDonald, who drove the horse after the race. Johnny said, this is a nice colt. I really like him. And by all accounts from Doug Brown in Florida, where he is right now, he loves this horse also. Said, I really, really like the colt. The filly's got to put some weight on. Really blue chip. She always does. She's always frail. But he said the colt is some kind of good-looking colt. Arctic Force, can't wait to see what he's going to have in store for us in 2020 also. Really blue chip, just talked about her briefly with Doug, and Doug said he likes the filly. He's going to try and put a ton of weight on her. He thinks she's putting on weight right now. That's going to be the key to Really blue chip at 3, isn't it? She was always frail and thin at 2. We fed her and fed her and fed her, and she just didn't put enough weight on. We Baycoxed her, treated her for EPM, and continue to, but she still just didn't quite get there. And although she was a great filly and put some good money together and put a couple of great miles together, a memorable win for me, my first stake win after me breaking my arm and coming back, was Really blue chip in Buffalo. And then when that come out the very next start and was second in a huge mile of 56 at Yonkers. That was the Really blue chip that I want to see back, and that is who I hope we see in 2020. Sebastian Yu put on quite a performance one day at the Meadows, winning by double-digit lengths, by like 17 or 18 lengths in 57. But the biggest story for me is how he ended off his year. Wasn't a great year, but he was intelligent. And that was the one dig I'm going to talk about a 2-year-old Sebastian K we have on the 2-year-old list. And the reason I love her so much is she doesn't exhibit any of the negativeness that the 2-year-olds had, or the 3-year-olds had. Johan, hot. Sebastian Yu, hot. Knockdown, drag out, hot. Even Sebastian Ray was a little warm. They just had to learn, right? And towards the end of the year, I thought I saw a much more productive looking Sebastian Yu. Although he floundered and made a break in the final, that was my fault. I would have been second, but we needed to win to make it into the final of the stake race. And I chased him, and he made a break. But Sebastian Yu, make no mistake, understands what it takes to be a racehorse now. He's getting it, and I'm really excited to see what he's going to have for us in the coming calendar year. Capistrano was the leading filly in the pacing division of the Grassroots going into the semifinals. Ended up faltering a little bit coming off sickness and finished 6th. But here's a filly that won not only in 53, but twice in 54 as a 2-year-old. Just an impressive filly, what she could do as a 2-year-old, and I'm really excited to see what Capistrano has for us in the coming months and years. Johan, he made the list. He didn't do anything in 2019 except break my heart, but at the same time, Johan ended up with a fairly significant injury to his hind leg. But what I see is him coming back strong. I don't see any issues with that leg. I think that Dr. McKee did a great job cryoing that suspensory up on Johan.